films, went back and really kind of thought over, and there were so many films I could have picked for this. I really probably could have done like a top 50 films.
You could have.
And the first one I picked was back, it's more than 25 years old, but I started with Babette's Feast. It was a Danish film that won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film.
What year?
I'm wanting to say 87, although it may have been 84. I was in high school when this came out.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it. It was actually based, the guy who wrote it also wrote Out of Africa.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, Out of Africa.
Good movie. Good film.
Don't like it, but yeah, I know. Sarah's been working on.
You don't like Meryl Streep, or you didn't like Out of Africa?
Meryl Streep. Don't like Out of Africa.
Okay.
Basically, the first half of this film, for Babette's Feast, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but it's a very, just kind of to sum it up, it's, there's kind of it's set back in 19th century Europe during kind of the political revolutions that are going on, and there's kind of a puritanical kind of town that takes in this very young woman, these sisters do, and they have lived a very kind of pious life, and this Babette, she ends up she lives there, and she's basically, it has a lot of like cultural references because of the revolution, where you have Babette has this kind of displacement from her southern, basically Catholic upbringing, and she's in Northern Europe where they're like Protestants, and she ends up basically winning this lottery, 2,000 francs, and she uses the money you don't really know much about her other than, and she's this young woman, she's there for all these years, and she does this feast for them. And the feast and the music, when she does this feast and she cooks this just incredibly luxurious feast for all these people, and the feast is so fantastic, and the music, and you basically watch at the end of this film, these people eat this incredibly luxurious meal that they've never known anything like this before.
What kind of food was it? Do you remember?
Well, 19th century fare, and it's been so long since I've seen the film, but it's like to watch them eat it. It's such a sumptuous feast banquet that was set before them, and it makes them basically rethink everything. It's like, did I go down the road, the road not taken, and they rethink.
Food for thought, literally.
Yeah, really, it literally is food for thought. And, it makes them kind of rethink their, it's like food can exist on a higher plane, because part of the movie is like when they start seeing all the ingredients coming in, they're like, could this possibly be the work of the devil? Is it going to be a sin for us to eat all this type of food and stuff? And it's such a
it's one of the 7 sins, right?
Yeah.
Gluttony. Right.
But I do recommend the film for anyone, because it is definitely, because food is a key factor of the film at the end of it. That's why it's Babette's Feast, but it is such a fantastic film. The next film I picked, because I started thinking about, and this one, I don't know, for some reason popped into my head.
I thought about this one too, actually.
Ratatouille.
Mm-hmm.
Ratatouille. Charming film, and how could you not like an animated kids fic where the evil food critic is Anton Ego, voiced by my favorite actor ever, Peter O'Toole, and they actually call him the Grim Eater. And I thought, and when I saw Ratatouille, and it's Peter O'Toole voicing this, and I thought, if I could be a food critic to have the nickname the Grim Eater, what a fantastic, awesomely, to be so feared as a food critic that they call you the Grim Eater. That'd
Good
be
gig.
Awesome. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely awesome. Ian Holman and Patton Oswalt, who I've always thought is kind of underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Very funny.
Yeah, he's a fantastic comedian, but
He's somebody who's great to follow on Twitter, by the way.
He is.
Yeah, I follow him.
It's like, I keep expecting him, he's like, everyone's like, thinks he's fantastic, but it's like, always I keep expecting he should be bigger than what he is.
Yeah.
He should be bigger. It's, food it's definitely a foodie film, except it's food cooked by a rat.
Yes, which almost could kind of gross you out a little bit.
You would think it would if you're a ratophobe, but it's not. There's nothing squeamish about it.
Yeah,
you know,
the rat's he's a cool dude.
Yes, you know, and if you're a rat, you know, and the funny thing is, if you're a ratophobe, if you watch the film,
is that a real word, ratophobe?
A ratophobe. I say a ratophobe.
This is a dumb.
The character of Remy is always shown walking on his hind legs and keeping his hands or his paws clean.
Yeah.
You'll notice that in the film.
What exactly is ratatouille anyway? It's like a stew of some sort, right?
No, ratatouille. I thought it was kind of like a succotash, maybe.
See, it was kind of like a soup to me.
It's I don't know, and it's a Pixar film. Unlike we're talking about, it is a Pixar film that I think that the colors here are fantastic. It makes Paris look fantastic. The food,
no easy feat, right?
No. The food looks completely edible. It's the very sensation of eating in Ratatouille is visualized, and it's it's a great film to watch with kids, and I don't know. I just really thought it was great.
I need to buy that on DVD. That's one Pixar I don't have.
It is. It's a great film, and yeah, it is. I don't know. It's just a good film. It was my second film, and again, none of these are particularly in order. My next one, which some people will probably freak out when I say this, but it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, not Willy Wonka.
I said this when he told me about his movie. I was like, so why not the best one, the Gene Wilder version?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Rundell's classic, first brought to life in 1971. I liked, and oddly enough, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original one, financially backed by the Quaker Oats Company. Don't know why, but it was. I liked the over-the-top Tim Burton treatment. I liked Johnny Depp. I thought it was a little bit of a grandizing thing, but if you read the classic, Tim Burton's, I thought was more faithfully followed. To me, the original Willy Wonka was a little too nice. Granted, Gene Wilder was great in it, and his song, "Come With Me," and you'll see, it's a pretty song, but I liked the darkness, and the story was dark.
So you're saying that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was darker?
Yes.
That's a Tim Burton spin for sure.
Yeah, it's it has a splat of fancy, and the children in it were, the book focused more on the children. I thought the original focused had too much of the parents, and this updated version didn't. And it had the candy, and for me, there was definitely, as from the food aspect, there was definitely a break between the. You showed Charlie Bucket's family, for the foodie aspect, all they could eat is cabbage. And from a foodie aspect, cabbage, I don't care much for just boiled cabbage. And then you had this aspect of all this fantastic, sugar that you could eat. And then there was, Freddie Highmore as Charlie Bucket, who, a lot of the people in the movie, some of the critics, I remember saying that he came across as, he wasn't as fantastically interesting as the other children, but the fact that he was steadfast and to me made him very interesting. He was steadfast and dependable, whereas the other actors and actresses that play the children did a fantastic job. But I thought Tim Burton's view on this was great, and it was dark, and it showed the character of Willy Wonka as flawed, which is what, if you read the book, it was really what this version was. I just saw perfectly, because Willy Wonka had this, he basically was a child himself and he needed to grow, and he needed Charlie to help him do that.
Is it just me, or did Johnny Depp remind you of like Michael Jackson in this film? There's
really
definitely that element of just what you said.
It really, really kind of was. And one thing that I really think that was really, that helped this also was that Highmore and Depp were really good together in Finding Neverland before they did this. So they were able to play off of each other in this. And it was... Oh, I just thought it was a little more of an elaborately spun story um, around this, of Willy Wonka, somehow meting out these ideal punishments that he had for everyone. Even at the end, it showed the children at the end, and you kind of knew that, hey, they're okay. Yeah, they're stretched out, and one of them is blue or purple.
I
or
haven't seen it yet. No,
was.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I'm a huge Tim Burton fan. I think his retake on a lot of things and reimagining is very refreshing, and it does have that dark element that I do.
It is.
And Johnny Depp, I mean, he obviously is a Tim Burton guy.
And around it all is candy and sweets.
Yeah.
And it shows that, and everyone knows, in the real world that, too much sweets are bad for you. And you see that in the film.
Yeah.
And, it shows he was denied it as a child, and it had a bad effect on him.
And that's what happens. That's why you don't deny yourself things. If you want a Big Mac or a Whopper, you eat it just once in a while. That's right.
Now, my next film was Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which is, this one is an older one, which, before doing films like The Hulk, Angela Ang Lee, did this
Mountain
film.
Too? Did he do that? Ang Lee? I think he did. And he did Life of Pi, I believe.
I think he did Life. I'm not going to comment because I don't know that for sure.
Okay, I think he did. Anyway, go ahead.
This centers around a Taipei family, where the lead character is a master chef who is somewhat, it's a comedy, but it's more than just a comedy. It's got some, I would call it more of a dramedy because it gets into some, for me, some serious aspects. But the only way he really communicates with these daughters of his, these kind of headstrong daughters, are these very elaborate meals that he makes Sundays for him. And again, I don't want to get into a lot of different things on this, but the daughters have very different things going on in their lives that he doesn't know, and he tries to communicate with them through his food, these very elaborate meals, and he's kind of past his prime so that he's not quite as good a cook as he is anymore. But Eat, Drink, Man, Woman is...
Who stars in it? Did you mention that already?
I really honestly could not pronounce their names. It is a
foreign film.
Foreign film.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
It is a foreign film, and it basically takes its Eat, Drink, Man, Woman is basically from a Chinese proverb that basically talks about it's a proverb that basically means basic human desires of food, sex. It isn't the perfect confection that was. It basically just talks about human desires: eat, drink, man, woman. Which every time I think of this film, it's like Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which is probably how Arnold Schwarzenegger originally asked out Maria Shriver. But yeah, but it's basically it's a tender without being mushy. It's sweet without being syrupy, but it's a surprising film if you take the time to seek it out. And it does. Food is very constant in it because of these Sunday dinners with his father, looking to communicate with his daughters. And it's the only way he knows how to do it is through food.
Is that on Netflix by any chance?
I actually believe it is. I believe it is on Netflix.
That sounds like something I would like. Now, is it subtitles or is it?
Subtitles.
Subtitles,
yes.
Okay.
The next one I want to talk about is one that you may have seen. It's Sideways with Paul Giamatti.
Excellent.
And Thomas Hayden Church.
Yes.
It is sort of like a
Sandra
buddy
Oh,
picture.
too.
Sandra
Free Grey's Anatomy.
Yes. It is kind of a buddy picture, road trip movie. It is one that I think that every foodie kind of flirts with at some point in their life, which is obsession about something. When I first saw the film, it was something that I had heard, kind of good things about, and I went and saw it. And it's, someone who's ever kind of, quivering on the edge of depression like Paul Giamatti is in the movie, or as he is so good at, portraying. He goes out basically on a wine tasting tour with his, good friend played by Thomas Hayden Church from Wings, who is completely different from Wings.
Yeah.
And basically it's directed by I'm trying to think. Alexander Payne, who did the movie Election and About Schmidt. And it is really kind of, again, the way I kind of describe it is, a buddy picture, a road trip that is not the slapstick from what you'd consider the Hope and Crosby films. It really is about two guys kind of facing their own kind of, I guess, midlife crisis.
Yeah, like almost their demons a little bit.
Yes, it is a little bit their demons while on a wine tour.
Right.
And everything that you would kind of expect, kind of facing your demons, as you would say, as they both kind of have a midlife crisis, meet women, sort of fall in love,
kind of, sort of,
and
no fucking Merlot. Sorry.
Yes, no Merlot.
That's what I love Paul Giamatti, and I think this movie was actually nominated for some Oscars. I don't know if it won any. But I own this movie, and I love it, and I was glad to see this on Brad's list.
Yes.
It's a great movie.
And I think that, it's definitely never what I would consider a pretentious film at all.
Yeah.
It's got, it's a passionate film. If you like... if you like wine, you'll definitely like the film.
Drink wine while you're watching it.
Yes.
I mean, you got to do that. Like,
this is definitely something I would drink wine over. Yeah, no Merlot.
If you haven't seen the movie, when you watch it, you'll see why we keep saying that.
Yes. And, it is just a great character-driven film. Great film for Paul Giamatti. I think it was the one that probably really kind of put him on the map.
Yeah.
Made people wake up to him. But definitely... Great. It is really, and actually kind of going back, it was the one film that I think actually kind of made people see that wine tasting, if you like wine tasting, you're not a pretentious person.
Right, right. You're like Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church. You're about as unpretentious as you can get.
Yes.
Great film.
Okay, and now my last film that I picked is, I think, probably the one I actually thought that was most perfect for this is the movie Soylent Green. Basically, I think probably a lot of people have seen this. A lot of people haven't. It's an old film from like
70 something, right? Is it?
It's like 72, 73.
I was thinking 72s. Yeah, early 70s.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Directed by Richard Fleischer. Stars. God, now I'm drawing complete. Charlton Heston. Basically, it's set in the year, it was, from the early 70s, set in the year 2022. So
coming up. That's frightening. 7 years away.
Set in New York. Basically, it's, the world is overpopulated. There is a massive gap between the rich and everyone else is enormous. Poverty's rampant.
Feel the burn.
Unemployment's high. They talk about the greenhouse effect, which this is in the early 70s.
We need to give this film a second look these days.
And, and oddly enough, as I was going back and looking at this, obviously everything I just mentioned is kind of being talked about right now. All of this has been brought on by climate change, decimated agriculture, resulting in food shortages from an unsustainable population. Murder mystery. Charlton Heston's in it as a police detective, and basically, it comes down to, there are like food riots going on. People, homeless hordes living in stairwells. And, it kind of comes down to the fact that, traditional crop methods, they're feeding people these different colored like things called Soylent. Mm-hmm. And Soylent Green is this new one. It's supposed to be different types of, a new type of protein. And it turns out that, Soylent Green, the end of the movie ends with him discovering there's this murder mystery going on. And it turns out that, Soylent Green is made out of people, and that's the whole thing is that they have, Yeah, they're taking basically anyone who dies, and they're basically turning all the dead people into Soylent Green. And
It's like the DNA story this week about hot dogs, how hot dogs contain small traces of
yes.
human DNA.
And I've always, said that, even as a kid, I've always thought that Soylent Green, and again, some people laugh when I say this, Soylent Green, if you watch the film, I've always thought out of any, not that we would, be feeding, dead people to other people, but if you watch the film, I've always thought Soylent Green, it was the best portrayal of how things could potentially be. And it's oddly enough that back, 1972, 73, when this film came out, they actually had one of the main characters in it. And they, literally, in 1973, they're talking, they're showing the world overpopulated. They're talking about greenhouse gases, which no one talked about that back then. Food shortages, and they actually had centers where people could go and get assisted suicide. And we have that now today.
Yeah.
So all the stuff they were talking about in 73, we have that now. We have that now. So I'm just like,
where's the people protein?
That's right. That's right. So as I'm literally like writing notes down for this,
yes,
I'm
tapping our thumbs, like,
I'm
where
sitting
is
there
it?
thinking, I'm like, what on the market? What restaurant on the market is selling people? And I'm like, is it the KFC Double Down?
Oh gosh. That might be where it's at, I'm afraid.
Yes. Is it the double down?
Have you had that, by the way?
No. When I saw that, I'm
really.
like, bacon, cheese, and 2 deep fried chicken breasts.
Yeah, that's your bun.
That actually is my limit.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not doing that.
And the reason I actually would not try that is I don't like, it looks too messy.
I need bread.
Yes.
I'm not, it's like the idea of really like the donuts in the burger. It's like, I don't want to have a burger encased in some donuts.
No,
that doesn't appeal to me at all.
No, that just looks, no.
Yeah, I like donuts, I like burgers, but don't mix them together.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paula.
But that was my, last film, and I know, it kind of, some of them may be listening to it and say, well, those don't all sound like foodie films, but again, the whole idea was this was something that we thought about that was, films that had some food relation. Mm-hmm. Again, like on the Soylent Green, literally food was a huge part of it. It was, a science fiction based film where food was kind of a major part around it because it was a sci-fi murder mystery film where literally food was a major part of it because we were the food, and
we might still be the food.
And we might still be eventually, yes.
7 years away. So was this pre-Ben-Hur and
No, this was 73.
10 Commandments? When did those come out?
Those were
earlier?
Earlier. 10 Commandments, I think, was like in the 50s, late 50s maybe.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Mid-50s,
right,
and then Ben-Hur, I think,
60s,
was maybe 1960,
61,
1959,
something like that. Okay, that's right. Time gets away from me.
Yeah, this was kind of when he was on. This was like his last kind of big hurrah.
Right, before the NRA took over.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We won't speak ill of Charlton.
I like Heston. But yeah, actually, really, I really enjoyed the film. So yeah, do if you get a chance, go out and look at these films when you get a chance. They are very good in their own rights, even if you're not a big foodie. These are just good films in general. Mm-hmm. And let us know, as fellow foodies out there, let us know what films you like that have memorable moments to you. Yeah. It could be one of these. One I particularly left out that had a moment that definitely that included food, even for a moment, was the film Alien. The eating scene where the alien made its first appearance as a kid always stuck out because I didn't want to, because he was always they were munching on spaghetti at the time. Mm. And I was like, I would
not have thought of that one, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a foodie film. It can just be something, brief clip, like my FBI cake. That kind of resonates with you a little bit.
That did. That always kind of,
Yeah.
That did. That was another one that stuck out that I was like, I could have added that one. There were just, so many, or a recent one, the movie Chef.
Yes, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that is a great, great film. I love that.
Yeah.
That's another one that was hard for me to not put on my list.
Yeah.
So we're going to publish, someone wants to say hi.
Yeah. Hey, our sound technician's back.
We might publish some clips to the Dumb Crumb Facebook page, some of our movies, but definitely we want to hear from you. And we also want to know, I want to know if you think Dumb and Dumber is the greatest comedy ever. So you got to prove Brad wrong here is what you need to do.
It's not.
It is. Yes. It is, by far. So we are going to get this uploaded and post some of our movie clips and maybe like our top 5, and so you guys can seek them out if you haven't seen them already. And then next week, we have a really big show planned for you. I am very excited, and I can't tell you what it's going to be about, but we might drop some hints over the next few days. But I think next week's going to be a really fun, timely show.
I can't even remember what it is.
Lively debate. So I'm super excited about next week. So as always, thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we'll see you next week.
Have a happy Halloween.
Yes. Get lots of Chico sticks.
Yes, but no licorice.